fact that God created marriage. And so if he created it, he must have an idea of how it should work. So the first thing you guys should share is a shared faith.
Because you think about that, if you're just dating and you are of one faith and your person that you're dating is of another faith, while you may be physically attracted and visually, and you may get along and you may have cohesive ideas about certain things and just may gel, but guess what? It's gonna come up. It's gonna come up sooner or later. You know, if the relationship goes further down the road, you're gonna get to a point where you have to make a decision about where are you going to align yourself with.
And so it starts with a question like this: who is Jesus to you?
If you're a Christian.
That's
because we are, yeah.
Because we are. So that would be the first question, is because that's something you need to share. You would need to both understand who Christ is to you. Because to me, he's my Savior. He died on the cross. He's not just a prophet. He is the King. He is who I live my life for. Who is Jesus to you?
So, my Savior. I mean, that's just something that you have to talk about,
right,
as you're in a dating phase and even before you get engaged. So now we get to go back to my first point, which was goals and ambition.
Yeah.
The reason why that is important, because if you're walking down the road of trying to accomplish or do something and that person is not in line with your goals and what your ambitions are, you think that's going to cause a problem?
It's going to cause a divide. And these are questions that we have over the years looked at. What are some of the biggest problems in marriage? Because we work with married couples, engaged couples, couples who are excited about getting married, and couples who are on the verge of divorce. And these are just some of the things that we have consistently seen as pitfalls or struggles or things that are really hard to overcome. So we want to help you not go through that.
So if you're listening to us tonight, we're actually, as you just joined us, we're actually outside of
at the pool.
So we're just hanging out here. If you can hear us okay, if you chime in where you're actually watching or listening from.
Right.
And if you're watching this later, chime in where you were at when you were listening, where you're driving. Well, hopefully you're not driving home, but if you're just at home chilling out or relaxing, just chime in where you're actually watching.
Let us know where you are. Let us know where you're watching from. We want to know you. We want you to know us.
So
we appreciate you.
So the second one that we want to talk about tonight, questions that you need to ask if you're engaged and thinking about before you get married, is what is your ideals about money?
Oh my gosh.
You want to go ahead, you jump in.
Yeah, the reason why this is important, and Gil and I were having this conversation, we're talking about the difference between a girlfriend and a wife. Me as a wife, if he gives me $500, I am going to invest that in our family. As a girlfriend, if you give someone $500, they may spend it on themselves. And so how do you see money? Do you see money as security? Do you see money as an investment? Do you see it as power? Those are the kind of conversations. Do you believe in having a budget?
This actually kind of goes in line with your very first one where we talked about goals and ambitions. This actually, what are your financial goals? If you're out trying to say, I want to buy a house in the next 5 to 10 years or even sooner, and that person is not in line with that, that's something that you need to know at the very beginning. Because if not, guess what's going to happen? Conflict.
Yeah.
So if you want to keep that in mind, so talk about your goals and ambitions. Go ahead.
And it's not that conflict is bad, because conflict is a part of a relationship. Conflicts are a result of you wanting or needing something that you haven't gotten. Maybe you didn't communicate it, or maybe it's just natural. Conflicts are going to happen. So we're not saying it's a bad thing. Only unresolved conflict. So what's the next one, babe?
Family. How is your family? Well, not necessarily how you relate to your family. What role and what position does your family have in your life? If you're very, very close and tight knit, and mom, dad, sister, brother, aunt, uncles have a lot of input into your life and how things go, that's something you want to know and discuss at the very beginning, because it will cause conflict.
Another thing that's important to remember on the flip side of that, if you are close to your family and the person that you're thinking about getting engaged to or married does not have a close relationship with their family, and they're trying to pull you away from your family, that's something else to be mindful of, because isolation is very dangerous. A part of building a relationship is that when you stand before to get married, you're not just the two of you, it is your family. So not that they should have the last final say, but they should be a part of the process. And so don't totally change from the way you are as a person because you're going into a relationship with someone else.
In addition to what that actually goes with when you talk about your family, is what is your ideal for family?
Yeah.
Do you want to have children? Do you not want to have children? Do you want to have them earlier? Do you want to have them later? those are all points of discussion that you need to have and do while you're in the dating phase before you get engaged, because that can have a bearing on even some of those financial goals and some of your ambition goals when it comes to as far as careers and vocations. Those are things that you want to keep in mind, because if not, it's going to cause a
divide,
conflict.
No, it may not necessarily cause a conflict. It may cause a break in the relationship.
Right.
And so you want to know all these things in the beginning, because you don't want to get to the day before the wedding and find out, oh my gosh, we are totally on totally opposite ends on the spectrum on everything. So these are things you want to just to allow yourself to enjoy the whole process of dating and getting engaged and getting married. Ask the hard questions up front. Don't wait until you're emotionally invested.
Oh, absolutely. This is something that you want to think about. I think about us because at one point when we were just dating and we were in this stage, initially Renee didn't want to have children.
Actually, initially Gil didn't either. We both agreed we weren't going to have kids.
Right.
And then my godmother died, and her whole thing was every woman should have a baby. And so my whole
philosophy.
I flipped the script on him. And I was like, babe, I want a baby. He was like, you want a what? And we talked about it, you know, and I think we were both just afraid of not being able to be good parents. Not that we didn't like kids. It's just that we were afraid. And so we talked about it, and we agreed.
Yeah. And even from the very beginning, my very first focus was I wanted to be married and get to know my wife first. Because once you add children to the mix, it can change the whole dynamics of your relationship with as spouses, as boyfriend, girlfriend, as husband, wife, because those things have a big factor, because you focus on becoming the parents. Yeah, you focus on trying to be a good parent that is just going to naturally draw you and pull you away from each other. Right. But that's where you have to make a stand and make a choice on what is it you want to invest in and when you want to invest in it.
And understanding that anything that has to take priority over your first commitment, which is you and God, and then you and your spouse, children are going to be a part of that. So you just have to make a decision about that and still prioritize time together as a couple if you do have children.
So this is something that we want to talk about also. What is your ideal of a man's role and a wife's role in your relationship?
Yeah.
That's a good dating question. That's something that you can discuss, and we can talk about it from the perspective of who's going to take out the trash.
Yeah.
Who's going to wash the dishes?
Who's going to cook? Who's going to stay home with the kids?
Who's going to do all those things? Because you don't want to have a mindset of this is how it's going to be, and not have that clearly communicated when you're just before you get to that final commitment stage. Because if you do, it's going to cause an issue later on down the road.
And I think a part of it is just anything you don't talk out, you're going to act out. And I know for Gil and I, like for me, I worked in the morning. So we decided I would go into work early and get off early so that he could get Aaron ready for school and